I am absolutely perplexed by this episode of ReZero. I was already to claim this as a masterfully crafted episode with the Roswell content alone. That stuff had me intrigued beyond belief because really it brought up the question once again, really in our face, is he friend or foe? Because he seems to know a little too much, and it's a little unnerving not knowing if he's really doing things for Subaru's sake or his own, but maybe it's a bit of both. But then you get the Echidna content, and you get one of the most intense resets we've ever seen in ReZero being gnawed on by bunnies in one of the most horrifying fashions I think I remember seeing. It honestly gave me a reminiscent vibe of that moment where he's walking in an icy wonderland as then his head gets cut off by Puck in horror form in that winter scene as the credits start rolling. But then you get Echidna, who gives the most satisfying hug and relief Subaru and the viewers have craved ever since season 1. The one thing Subaru has wished above all else is to be able to tell anyone he can return by death. But every time he does that, there's an icy cold hand that grabs his heart, or will grab the hearts of those around him and will crush them, or give him a very rude reminder that he is alone and he needs to be afraid. Of course, ReZero, from Rem to even Amelia this season, have shown that he does have connections that have stayed. But he hasn't been able to tell everyone the truth because he can't. Either he or others will die, and the last thing he wants is for others to die because he said, I can return by death, and then he gets a new save point. It's clear as day someone is pulling the strings and he is just the puppet and has no say. I've heard so many people just say Echidna is best girl in ReZero, and I thought maybe it was just because of the character design or the initial kind of cutesy persona that we've been introduced to. But I think it's this moment that really cements her as best girl for so many, and I am already ride or die for Echidna. It doesn't matter if she is the whole reason he returns by death. It doesn't matter if she becomes the most evil character in this show. I've joined the fan club. I'm already a member. You can't stop me. That moment, and Subaru's voice actor, it went in. He is one of my favorite performers in any anime character scene ever. Like, Subaru's voice actor goes beyond just portraying a character and really believing in the character. He is the character. And the relief of crying and just realizing that, he's nervous. He's beyond nervous because he's just suffered one of the most brutal deaths in quite some time. And the last thing he wants is that grim reminder that he can't tell anyone. And she's almost baiting it out of him, and he says it, and nothing happens. And she's like, anything else? And just that buildup of just him almost looking like a lunatic, someone who belongs in an insane asylum, and then some. Just him spazzing out and throwing it in her face, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, while she's just like, okay. It was such night and day to what you're probably assuming is going to happen. I honestly thought that when he said it and nothing happened, she was going to go all menacing and evil. Like, I honestly believed that was the direction they were going. But the fact that she was just almost like this big sisterly, motherly love, just embracing him and saying, I understand how much you've suffered, but you don't have to suffer anymore. And just his breaking down and crying, that's the type of vulnerability you don't see in protagonists like Subaru too often. That's why I've always claimed that Subaru is one of the best written protagonists I've ever seen. He may infuriate you, he may make a lot of mistakes, but he is the most human you could associate with in this series. He may have anime gimmicky quirks on how he interacts with people, but when it comes to the real raw and vulnerable moments, there's no one more well written. He ties some of the best out there. He really does. And that embrace, it felt like, how many episodes have we watched him be killed or not being able to really comfort in another, and he broke down and cried. The directing was beautiful, the mood lighting was fantastic, but his voice actor tied that performance together, and the author is smiling ear to ear, seeing just how high of a quality production that his work has received, because there's good anime adaptations, but then there's masterpiece ones, and this one clearly is. That's why I'm not even bothered that the second core we're not going to be able to watch until winter, because it's clear as day that this is a passion project and not a cash grab. And that's what I love to see, is just the relief of feeling like after everything that we witnessed, I was ready to come up here and say that my heart was crushed this episode because I felt hopeless. I felt like this was the worst thing we could see, as if everyone that we cared about, Otto, the dragon, the villagers, everyone was being brutally murdered left and right, and I thought we were getting a save point. And then when you see him snap to and he's bashing his head into the ground, where do you go from here? You can't recover in this episode. I was firmly believing that I was just going to be left in despair, and then they showed us Echidna. And if you would have told me before season 2 that a Witch of Greed would be one of the characters who would give Subaru the biggest relief. Actually, I would say the biggest relief he's ever received. I would have said you're a lunatic. But as she said, she's someone who searches for the answers. She's greedy. She wants to know all these things. But that's all Subaru needed. Someone that he could tell. And I'm going to assume it's a part of because she's a witch, but then also this weird realm that he's in, that he was able to override whatever hand of death is coming his way. But all I can say is I hope he doesn't forget her. That whole exchange about how he wants to be able to override the vow and be able to remember her, because when he enters this realm, he's calm as can be. And should he be able to go outside and remember her, I'm curious what they would be able to do with his psyche if he remains calm. Would he still be able to emotionally break, or would he basically be like he is in his kind of tea party realm where he drinks bodily fluids of a witch of greed? But at the same time, the fact that he did emotionally break in a good way in this realm, it does show me that there's still going to be room for Subaru to have mental breakdowns, good and bad, and it's a matter of time to see what's going to happen. And I really hope that he can remember, because this is an exchange that you want to see him hold on to, because it's similar to Rem's confession or Amelia kind of standing up and saying, I do support you. Those are moments that define his character and help him evolve and push forward into new territory, rather than doing what most authors would do and just having him die over and over and just having him reset and emotionally break. But instead, we actually see progression in a realistic manner, and that's why ReZero is one of the best anime ever made. Bold claim, but I'm sticking by it at this point in time. I'm not afraid to say that, because these 8 episodes of Season 2 and just the masterpiece of Season 1, it is so amazing to see what they've been able to accomplish, and I love it. Roswell himself, though, is someone who I'm very unsure of. I'm not sure if I want to trust him or be scared of him, or a bit of both, because just what he says and how it's very interesting how he reads situations, because when Subaru confronts him, he's like, how would I get her on my side? And he's dropping information that Beatrice isn't a part of the witch's cult, but her book is kind of almost like a knockoff, and that's why she called it a gospel. You're like, well, I guess I can associate with her, but at the same time, you still have these questions. And of course, he gives the same line that he can say to her in order to get her on Subaru's side, but Subaru's like, that's not going to work. But he doesn't say it, his body says it, and he responds, try this instead. And I'm like, how much does he know? Does he know he can return by death? Does he just assume he can? Does he just trust that for whatever reason, every time something impossible pops up, he finds a way to overcome it? It's hard to say. And I love having a character as intriguing as Roswell, because he's honestly one of the best characters of ReZero, because of the uncertainty that he brings. He disappears, he comes back, and it feels like we know him even less the more we see of him. And that's what you want to see, because as certain characters like Garth says, he cares the least about the sanctuary, but at the same time you feel like he cares the most, but at the same time you kind of want to side with the lunatic who's murdering villagers, saying he probably doesn't. It's an uncertain feeling, and they did a remarkable job at establishing it right at the beginning of the episode to really give it an interesting feeling, and then seeing the just sacrifice and the build-up, and you're like, we just had Best Boy Otto, announce his friendship, and then he pushes Subaru away and gets brutally... I'm like, why? Why do you gotta do this? I felt so sunken and just distraught, I wanted to curl up and cry. Just seeing just all these characters, even his faithful little dragon, I'm just like, no. The bloody eyes, and then just seeing it get tossed, I'm like, please don't do this. And I was totally expecting a save point. And that's why, when you see him in the Icy Wonderland, I was like, oh great, we had a time skip, and that's his new save point. It's interesting how this season of ReZero is doing something where in Season 1 you wanted to see him die. In Season 2, we're hoping he never resets, because it almost feels like, we've built things, we want to see it work, and every time we reset, we're like, can we rebuild that? Because as Garth basically smells Subaru, the more he resets, the more that witch's scent lingers, and it's like, how can he do anything? He needs to survive this time around, but can he? I don't know, and I really don't know if there's going to be a positive outcome with this whole sanctuary business, and that's an amazing feeling. Once again, one of the best episodes of ReZero, and the fact that they're just doing it back to back to back, it just says that we haven't seen anything yet, and ReZero isn't out of ideas. They have a shit ton of ideas, and I can't wait to see more. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Did you love it? Do you hate? Your favorite moment? And where do you think it's going to go next week, and how crushed were you? Because I was definitely crushed and relieved all at the same time. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.